Preparing to live stream, setting up your custom streaming device. Uh, we are live. We did it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily Sigh. It is March 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern. We go live every single business day at 6 o'clock because, to be honest with you, without doing that, I feel horribly left behind. So if you're a business owner trying to keep up with what actually matters, this is for you. I read all the news so you don't have to. I report on what I think is important. Then I gather everybody that wants to come, to be honest with you. Come one, come all. If you want to join us live on the Zoom, go to dailysigh.ai. That'll get you into my private free forever community where you will find the Zoom link. I'm trying to keep that not super public because I just don't want the spammers in. But anybody willing to jump through my community hoops, you get the Zoom link. You come hang out with us. We have tons of fun and really mastermind. But first, we need to read the news. So I will ask my panel. Um, if I miss anything that I should have reported on, let me know. The first story is not a surprise to anybody. This comes from the Register. Interpol warns AI-driven fraud is exploding. Interpol has issued a global warning that AI is making fraud significantly more profitable and harder to detect through traditional security. Criminals are utilizing deep fake voice scams and automated phishing to target employees, meaning your existing technical defenses are likely insufficient. Fun fact, my business mentor was a partner at Larson Allen, which is one of the CPA firms that works with like ultra high-end, organizations, high-end, high net worth individuals, et cetera. They had an entire department of nothing but young buck kids that came out of Ivy League schools whose job it was, swear to God, was to try to break into their client's security. That's all they did. There were, I forgot there was like the risk something department. And the thing that I thought was really interesting is I expected nothing but like cloak and dagger, like dropping worms behind the mainframe and hacking the database and all those words that we hear in movies. It was none of that. It was phishing. 99.99999% of all of the vulnerabilities they found through phishing. Phishing is just them messaging an employee, pretending to be you, and getting the employee to say something that gives them a little bit more information that lets them break in. So if you want to protect yourself, number one, have a written policy in place because when it comes to crunch time, that alone is really helpful from a risk mitigation standpoint. Make sure that you have business insurance and talk to your employees. I mean, have a conduit through which somebody could report like a weird Slack message or email because that's usually how these folks are really getting in. More important than anything, and I know this is going to sound funny, I don't mean this as a joke at all. Talk to the elderly people in your life. As soon as I saw those deepfake videos, first thing I did is I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, President Trump's not going to call you personally asking you for money. Like, I need you to know that this is the way that this works. Um, and it's kind of sad, but it's also really funny. From Reddit, AI coding assistants linked to 58% increase in security vulnerabilities. I reported on that yesterday. It's worthy of repeating just because vibe coding is I mean, that's the thing. That's the jam. That's where we're all headed. So watch for AI models that are reproducing insecure malicious code snippets. From Miso Robotics, the Flippy Fry Station targets $1 trillion market. Y'all, this is really interesting. I asked my EA to put this in specifically. I stole this from the Morning Brew. Um, there is a automated fry cooker that has already cooked millions of orders in real world environments like White Castle, proving industrial robotics are finally viable at scale. Here's why I think this is so important. This is one of the first, this is actually maybe the second or third articulation. The first articulation of robotics taking a very real, very tangible job that I can think of recently is the automated window washers and then the automated janitorial services. And y'all, that's no bullshit. Like that's a real job. A fry cook is a real job. And the fact that we don't need fry cooks anymore, here comes the robotics to take it over. What I'd ask small business owners to do is to pay attention to that because this is bad news for employees. It's probably really, really good news for businesses in short order because this is an opportunity for you to leverage some of this, I don't know what to call it, agentic arbitrage. From the rundown, StarCloud files for 88,000 AI satellites to create orbital data center. What could go wrong there? NVIDIA-backed StarCloud plans to host AI workloads in space to bypass the constraints and cooling costs of terrestrial data centers. They had a conversation on Diamandis' show about why heat and gravity are like the two really significant constraints for us. And if we can get away from heat, we can get away from gravity, then we'll put ourselves in a position of scale beyond what we think might be possible. So this will be really interesting to see. From the rundown, China approves world's first commercial invasive BCI. BCI means brain computer interface. It's exactly what you think it is. Shanghai-based Neurical Medical Technology, I definitely didn't pronounce it right, has cleared regulatory hurdles for a brain computer interface ahead of Neuralink and Synchron. The system allows patients with spinal cord injuries to control robotic gloves via thought, making a transition of BCI from trial to prescription. This is interesting. And we're all going to be hybrids, I imagine, someday, like the Borg. Um, some sub stories. Apple buys Motion VFX to target Adobe. We'll see how they do. I think Apple will crush it. FTC finalizes national non-compete ban. Love this as somebody who's been through horrible non-competes. The government has officially banned non-compete agreements nationwide. This is a massive win for recruitment, allowing you to hire specialized talent previously locked away by competitors. The timing should not be lost on any of us. Um, the Promptery launches AI marketplace for SMBs. This is pretty cool. Yahoo Finance reports a new curated marketplace for small business AI tools has gone live. They're calling it the Promptery. This solves the quote choice paralysis for owners who don't have time to vet a million random tools. I think we actually talked about that yesterday. And lastly, SaaS teams face margin pressure from Claude Pro subsidy cliff. Discussion suggests Claude Pro subsidies cover 90% of compute costs and may soon end. AI heavy teams must model their costs. That's part of that article that we shared. So those are the stories. If you want the Daily Sigh delivered directly to your inbox, you can go to dailysigh.ai. If you want to join us live, you can go to dailysigh.ai and sign up. Come hang out with us. We'd love to include you in the fun and vibrant discussion that's about to take place right now. Fellas, Grant, Clinton, Brandon, Elliot, Dylan, appreciate you all being here. Is there anything I didn't report on that happened today or recently that you think we need to touch on?
I don't know enough about the world events to plug in, but I'm gonna jump on Dylan this time uh, and kind of chime in because there were two things that I ended with yesterday. One was The War of Art, the book that he shared over on that section of the life unlived. I uploaded that book into GPT. I had it go to page 13 that Dylan kind of popped out. And then I asked it based upon all the conversations that we've had in our thread, is there any areas that you see that I'm not living my life in congruency with this, and had it call on my shit. Boy, that took me hours today to go through. We were just
Wow.
having a lot of back and forth, and it really it takes the data, calls me on it, and says this is where you need to tighten up. And I love that, like I can have that kind of history, add and interject this whole book basically, and just say, call me on my stuff that I'm not doing. And that's amazing. I'm still going down that thread, but I would recommend people to do that. Like basically take an excerpt of that book or take that book, upload it, and just kind of cross-reference it with your chats.
Dude, what a beautiful pro tip and what a brilliant way to utilize that resource. I love that a lot. What AI tool are you using for this?
I put this in a GPT, and like because I at first I thought it was like we were talking about the shadow self, but Dylan corrected me, and it moved into the unlived life. Part of what are you doing? What do you kind of dream about that you're not necessarily doing? And I feel like I consider myself really lucky in life. I haven't made multiple exits of companies, but I've had the ability to live what I consider could be a retired life. Lived overseas for many years. I've worked very few hours. I paid everything off and learned to live off very little. And I have very little need for things. So I created a minimalist life. And my core aspect is what can I do to give back? But then there's things that I'm challenged with clients and where I'm going and the kind of relationships that I'm having in certain aspects. And I have those discussions in GPT randomly. It's the easiest one that I pick up. Most of my core work I do is in Claude,
Dude,
but
I do that
more
same thing.
like,
Claude is where I work. GPT is just because it has all the context. It's
yep,
not even that I like it better. I've just been using it the longest, so it seems like it knows me the most.
yep.
I
And
don't want to be too
so
intrusive, Brandon. I'm just curious, as much as you're willing to share, what did it come back to you with? Like, what was the hard truth that it held your feet to the fire on?
let's see here. let me get to the part where it actually calls me out. It says you're not stuck, you're divided. It tells
Wow.
me, the life that I'm living versus the life that's unlived. It says your resistance is not laziness, it's misalignment, right? And
Love that.
so I'm working really hard, but I'm misaligned because my morals and aspect and how I believe people should be treated aren't necessarily how my clients treat me and the work that I do for them. And they're like, you still want to believe that someone's going to treat you fairly and that you're going to get a fair shake versus that's just not the real world of how it is. And you're a little scared on kind of taking it away. Says where you're self-sabotaging yourself. You've had payments withheld, terms manipulated, respect not aligned, internal sabotage, and you're still trying to negotiate alignment instead of creating independence,
Mm.
right? And says your unlived life requires a harder move, like fully detaching from dependency on this institution, rebuilding structure under control, accepting short-term instability for long-term sovereignty. Another place it shows up more subtly, burnout, overwhelm, too many moving parts, lack of clear direction, uncomfortable truth. You don't have a clarity problem, you have a commitment bottleneck. Like these are really great things that it's just calling me out on. And I love to be called out on because I love to take radical ownership for the things that I'm responsible for.
And what do you do now? Now that you have this, are you talking through like a plan of action on what to do?
Honing down like the areas of what I'm working on, right? So I'm totally, and even today, I had an SEO just basically quit on me today, one of my team members after a couple of years, because I asked one question and it was, are you using GPT to communicate with me and are to guide all of this work that you're doing? Because I'm paying you as a senior level SEO. And he got offended at the question. He's like, I'm done.
Really?
Like I can't work under these situations. I'm like, got a pretty good situation. I don't talk to you, but for, 2 or 3 times a month. And so if that's how it is, cool. So I spent the day just kind of removing the guy from all the systems, looking at it, and it's like, yeah, I did all this myself. There's a lot of companies that can run solo or two people and do really well. And I kind of just started outsourcing probably too much. And instead of knowing that I know how to handle these things myself without having to do it. And so I liked having someone to bounce back and forth, but I need to hone in where I'm focused on, shut down some projects that don't make sense, and then reevaluate what does make sense and what could be a moneymaker. And then I go out and I was like, all right, give me some of these ideas, but let's discuss them. How can I replace the income that I'm making and do it based upon I'm going to build something that's not going to be immediately stolen, replicated in the age of AI, right?
Yeah.
What can I do that is unique that's not immediately going to just, I'm building something that someone could just take right away from underneath me, right? And so that's where we are right now as we're going into those conversations. And I said, basically reverse engineer the outcome that I want to achieve, do all the reasons why something's not going to work so I can get to why it will, right? Because that's usually how I work at how deals are going to work. I look at all the negatives of why it will stop me from being successful to get to this successful outcome. And then did all that, started listing all the reasons and give me all red X's, why it won't, why it won't, why it won't, why it can be taken from you. And it's phenomenal. And so I'm pretty deep on that. And at the
You said
same time,
something yesterday, dude, that I loved a lot. You said you'll go to AI and say, answer this like Warren Buffett or Steve Jobs or whoever. I have a Munger inversion chat, a Munger inversion gem created where all I've done is train it to do the Charlie Munger. If
yep.
a ruthless competitor wanted to take you out in 12 months, what would it do? And dude, the thing that's really cool about it is it's really worth revisiting because the answer today is different than the answer yesterday, and it's going to be different than the answer tomorrow. That whole inversion thinking, we're not used to such rapidly changing ecosystems. So
Yep.
inversion thinking, like once you've identified the risks in a stable environment, you know the risks, and they more or less stay the same. That's not true any longer. Risks and opportunities, like we constantly need to be like looking anew, like
Hmm.
because the context today changed, even something as simple as that non-compete. It just occurred to me, I have got a couple of non-competes that aren't burnt out yet that I don't think are applicable to anymore. I could go start a paid traffic agency if I wanted to. I'm not gonna. Um, but yeah, dude, I like that a lot. The way that you're using this, I think, is ultra high level, and I love that you took what Dylan shared yesterday and like took immediate action on it, dude. I really respect that. Dylan, I know you shared a link to that. Could you share it again? Because I didn't download it, and now I want to. I want to go do what Brandon just did. I'm gonna do that for myself.
There
Yeah,
was another thing that was piggyback off of Dylan and Clinton both. Um, it was the tokenization reduction, right? And how do you reduce cost? And Clinton out there, how can what he's providing is reducing cost for a segment of an industry. And then I listened to this podcast like Chris Croner, if you're familiar with him. He
I'm
was
not.
having a chat where I guess they do what did like if I had to make $1 million, what kind of business would I do? And they talk about some of them. There was a recent one that came up, and it was talking about if I was a accountant, I would use AI to help people figure out how to save money in their business.
Mm,
And that was like a big eye opener for me, right? You talk about how can I reduce the cost of tokens. Elliot's over there working on how can I reduce the cost of energy so it can be, for these kinds of companies. Clinton's working on an aspect of reducing cost. There used to be these guys that would go out there and negotiate your credit card bills or your utility bills, your cell phone bills down, if you remember, and they take a
yeah.
percentage. So I was like, that's a really good model for anybody that's looking and listening. How can I help small businesses or any type of business go through their financials and where they're wasting and hemorrhaging some money? Because even a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 a month is huge for longevity and where they can put their money.
Well, and once you figure that out for one business, it cascades across all businesses.
Hmm.
Like every single self-storage facility uses one of three SaaS products. I only know this because I tried to enter that arena, and they're all garbage. Like all the self-storage people, all that. One of my friends is a thought leader in that space. He's got a few thousand students. There's not one person that says nice things about this shit. So
Right.
if you, me, or anybody else created a better solution, you go in, you love on one client, you do what we were talking to Clinton about yesterday, which is you basically do it for free, but you make it, perfect. And now it's applicable to every single other client. And to the point that you just made, Brandon, it doesn't need to be staggering. It could be like, hey, I saved your buddy 75 bucks a month. It'll cost you 15 minutes for me to deploy this. Do you want to save 75 bucks? And really you're saving 100 bucks, but you're eating 25. I love businesses where I eat what I kill, especially in down or unstable economies. Like that's the way to go because, I mean, people are going to be a little bit more cautious about where they go to spend. So I think that's really, really smart. Clinton, you
And
got your hand up?
Yeah, I just read about a guy who only does building permits for contractors. He basically took the biggest problem a contractor has on a site, the biggest thing that divides them and takes them away from the productive work, does it for them for a nominal fee,
Mm.
and then he just keeps it rolling. And he just like lily ponds the whole thing, and
That
that's all
turbo
he
permit.
does. Yeah, he just gets building permits for contractors, and
that's huge.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he's removing a huge headache for people.
Dude,
that's a
that's
big thing in ADUs too right now.
yeah. We say it again, Grant. ADUs are the additional
Yeah, like
domiciles, right?
Airbnbs and garages and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
Accessory dwelling units, yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
permits are the bane of everybody's existence in construction. And so yeah, there's been a few guys that popped up that are basically like streamlining that as much as you can. It's still very bureaucratic,
Yeah, I
but
got
at
a
least
buddy doing it in patents right now too for the same reason. It's a massive pain in the ass. It's hard, there's all these I's to dot and T's to cross, and he's made literally hundreds of millions of dollars in the patent space, and he knows exactly how to do that, and so he's going to automate the whole damn thing.
oh yeah.
I feel like there's a huge opportunity for somebody to do it in the grant application space. There's so much federal money, state money, private money, and just applying for the grants is a pain in the ass. But if you really like agentified that or automated it, nonprofits, that's the other thing too, is it gets really shady. It gets really gray to where the nonprofits will pay you a percentage of the grant that they get, assuming that that's allowed. So somebody who wants to go play with that. Elliot, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add some potentially interesting reading to your lead story today about the vulnerabilities with AI that might be interesting reading to some, but our AI lab signed an agreement with these guys out of Korea last year, the end of last year. AIM Intelligence. There's some really interesting gents out of South Korea that are essentially made up of a team of some of the best LLM hackers in the world. Their CTO, for instance, is I think the lead jailbreaker for LLMs for Anthropic and OpenAI, and actually
No
held
way.
both titles for a little while. I believe at least when I was talking to him last year. But they have some very interesting things on their blog about various vulnerabilities and personality hacking and other things that the craziest one they did say, just as a very interesting story that they gave us, was that they figured out how to start hacking models through other models on closed systems. So as long as one model was touching another model, they could, as long as they could just pass a vulnerability through. And they also figured out how in audio models to pass instruction through with encoded audio messages. And
Wow.
it's very interesting. And yeah, be aware, people, what you automate.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, it's funny because the vulnerabilities aren't all internal. I don't, did y'all watch the Frank Kern, Alex Catani thing? You know what I'm talking about? Frank's one of the godfathers of digital marketing. He's been in the game forever and a day, and he's a good dude. He's a good dude. I don't know Frank very well, but he's got a stellar reputation. He has for decades. And then all of a sudden, you started hearing Alex came out and some other dude, I forgot who, but they were like, Alex was really upset. I like Alex a lot. She and I are friends. She's a beautiful human and not one to embellish. Alex was so upset. She actually started the video with "I'm shaking right now." Apparently Frank was running these ads of Alex in a bikini promoting his AI copywriter course. And she, I thought, was pretty classy in the way that she called it out. Her audience, I mean, a couple bad apples ruined the bunch, right? People were comparing Frank to Epstein. His wife and his daughter were threatened. It got really bad. Flash forward, Frank does a video, shows the entire process, start to finish, including all the prompts, the raw prompts that he used in order to get to the output. And nowhere in the output did he say anything about Alex Catani. I think intuitively, when you just follow the natural train of thought, Frank Kern is selling an AI copywriting thing, asset. He tells AI, go create an ad that would appeal to this audience. AI pulls, goes out, does the research, figures out Alex Catani is one of the most notable figures in this space, and just chooses to use a likeness that's a little too close to hers. Not Frank's fault per se, but it sure didn't reflect well on him. And so, like, the vulnerabilities internal, super scary. But then there's also the vulnerabilities of, like, what happens when you just allow AI to kind of run amok? And how do you even guard against that? I mean, Frank and Alex haven't hung out in 20 years. Frank obviously didn't recognize the imagery. I just think that stuff, it's like, gosh, how do we attend to these risks? Dylan, you have your hand up?
You brought up a very similar thing yesterday. You said, what happens when the AI figures out the way to maximize open rate is to make the subject line, your wife is cheating on you.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
over optimization, you could call that, or optimizing for the wrong thing. That's what they say whenever a metric becomes a measure, or it's no longer a good measure.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because somebody yesterday brought up rubrics, which that's outside of my pay grade intellectually, and that feels like the right way to do it. You'd need like a three-dimensional scorecard that crosses, you would choose levels of analysis, right? And then you would have to continuously adjust your rubric because ostensibly AI is capable of anything. And so now anything being put in air quotes because it's going to be a time and money input. So like if you put enough time and money, AI can produce just about anything on the output, and then it's about the thing that you tweak would be the rubric. That's actually a really fun discussion to have, dude. AI shouldn't be prompted from the beginning. It should be prompted from the end, like goal-oriented prompting. I'm sure somebody's already coined this, but I'm just now getting there now. That's the way. Anytime I get anything really functional, I talk to it about the end, not the beginning. Uh, and the rubric is it's like a mathematical articulation of the end that you would iterate and optimize over time. So I feel like we need to build that, help people build the right rubric and then just get out of AI's way. Clinton?
Just a crazy idea, like for a new job role. If you have a company that has a lot of AI generated content and it's just like massive and like why not have somebody doom scroll the whole thing and audit what's generated?
Dude, so I mean, there's who is it? It's not Fiverr. It might be $99 social. There's because I staff for EAs, and so somebody who was competing against us or bidding against us for some of the traffic that we were trying to drive to get some of these folks to apply for EAs, that was the job description. It was,
Wow.
we need you to go through, and it was like a Fiverr-esque thing where we need you to go through every single thing that's produced and make sure that there's nothing like catastrophically damaging. And I think a lot of it had to do with like pornography, specifically like child porn, because there's like cross-pollination in prompts and things were getting like really suggestive. So there were like pictures of young kids that were, this wasn't in the job description now. This is after I got, I was interested in what was going on. This happened with X and it happened with another image manipulation tool. AI can't tell the difference between adults and children in certain contexts, I guess. And so the way that imagery is suggestive when the woman is 30 was being applied to when the kid was, and so that obviously set everybody's hair on fire for good reason. And that was the thing that I think they were trying to guard against. Because there really are lines where, it's so funny, dude. There's just shit that you don't want to be in possession of the output like that. So I think in certain departments, depending on what the business role is, you're absolutely right. Like you need a human just going through and making sure that, at a minimum, we're not doing anything that's going to get us thrown in, like presumptive federal time.
Yeah. And then I came up with kind of a creative solution to something came up yesterday. I think it was Dylan who said one of the problems with vibe coding is that when you're like looking at the UI UX results of it, you have to pick the one that looks best and go with that. So I don't know. I've been digging into my pet project today, like while waiting for this meeting to happen. And I found an amazing interface that I took a screenshot of. And I thought, what if I just had it rebuild based off the screenshot, that user interface? And it actually, like, I tried it on 3 different platforms, and I think AI Studio had the most accurate one.
Mm.
But yeah, it rebuilt the interface as I wanted it to, based on something I got months ago.
So you were just funnel hacking is what you were doing.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. I love that. We did that with I own seedoil.com with Joe Polish, and we tried to build it from the ground up with a couple developers, and it just kept exploding. And now we just have an EA just stealing Yelp. To be honest with you, it's just like recreate Yelp but make it our own. Because I hate Yelp with everything inside of me. If you haven't watched it, go watch Billion Dollar Bully. And they kind of cracked the code on, getting people to do that. And so why wouldn't we just recreate what's successful? High Level did that. I to this is to their credit. This isn't meant to detract, but every time I see High Level roll out, like when Level rolled out their calendar booking system, it looked exactly like Calendly. Like they weren't even trying. And then they rolled out their automation, it looked exactly like HubSpot. And then they rolled out their funnel builder, it looked exactly like ClickFunnels. And people got up in arms. They're like, "Oh, how dare they? They're stealing." No, they're not. You know what I mean? Like if something is protectable IP, it would have been protected. They're doing what everybody does. They're just cutting a little closer to the bone than most.
Yeah, well, they're also building based upon what's most user adoption, right? Because
Yeah.
they're features that are being asked from their user base, and they're like, "Hey, can you build this just like this?" Right? Because they know from their big user base they can just replicate it right away. Yeah, for sure. There was something I want to kind of jump in on your aspect of like the SBA yesterday, where you're like, go out there and get the money.
Mm.
Um, there was and speaking of high level, there's a guy named Timur Sabir who started like govpreneurs.com. I'll share the link in there and just for anybody on it. But he said basically there's like 750 billion a year in contracts available. So for anybody looking for jobs, like he shows people and like there's government contract jobs all day listed on there for people needing help in all different niches. And it's
Wow.
basically a marketplace for you to figure out how to solve the problems that they're posting for, whether in your market or where, and it's all government funded and they have to spend that money.
Dude, this is amazing. Perry Belcher said something to me that struck home. If y'all aren't following Perry, he is the smartest guy in the world. Like he's definitely the smartest person I have personal access to. And he said, he's like, the federal government, 50% of all the money that's spent in the world is spent by the US government.
Yeah.
And he's like, and we don't have access to none of that. You know, I'm sitting here trying to play onesie twosie bullshit with people, and there are folks out there that they figured out how to play that game. Um, and you're absolutely right. It would almost be a marriage of the two. Like you could back into what to use your SBA money for by looking at what's available from a government grant perspective that I actually think, you know, I could make accessible to me. Um, that's really sharp, dude. I like that a lot. That's what I want. I want an incubator. I want a group of entrepreneurs that just comes together and builds shit like this. You know, like we find a good enough idea and we're like, all right, dude, go. And you know, everybody brings whatever they've got. If you have money or tech know-how or people or connections or whatever. Um, I mean, I'm just defining an incubator is what I'm doing, but it's like the poor man's incubator because I can't go join Peter Thiel or Y Combinator. They don't take people like me. So we take like all the misfits, you know what I mean? Like the Island of Misfit toys, and we make our own incubator.
Well, the ability to find like government agencies that have or entities that are government funded that post their problem, right? It's kind of like Upwork for government companies.
Yeah.
They post their problem. You have to give them the solution. You present the solution. They tell you how much they have to spend, probably more than you would ever present, like from just an agency standpoint. Like I've got 50 or 150,000 or $1 million a year that I have spend to allocate to fix this solution, right? Bring me the solution and figure it out.
Yeah. Prove you can fix it, and then we're in
Or bid
business
on my
together.
job so I can spend the money because they have that money that's allocated to them that they have to spend for what they did, right? It's like they did government granted fundings and requested a certain amount of money, so they have to allocate it towards that specific solution.
Yeah. I'm on the Tim's website right now. He does a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's speaks in the Arabic community too. He goes overseas. He's one of the top high level people.
Yeah. I noticed that he's on the high level. He sat in line to take those pictures for the photo shoot for the award ceremony.
Yeah. I like Sean Clark. Have you ever spoken to him directly?
Oh, dude, Sean and I are buddies. I love him a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
I got him on
I call
personal
him the
cell
most
phone.
engaged
Yeah,
CEO I've ever known in my life.
hands down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean he's in support ticket system, like
Yep. Yep.
answering.
I'm on his Slack for his private developers. I got him on personal cell phone and I was like one of his first 100 people.
Were
And
you
then
really?
I build on it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love
You
that
know?
a lot. He's
But
just a
I
good
mean, he's
human
just
too.
like the one of the most positive CEOs I've ever met and just always there to like give value. Hasn't changed the price other than just years ago he added on like, that 497 plan, but it was either 999 or 297 and then 497 was that add-on years ago and
Yeah.
hasn't raised it and just keeps giving value.
Well,
You
dude,
know?
the guy, you know what I like about him? I don't know if this is obnoxious or not. I mean, he's a literal billionaire at this point. You know, he owns the majority of that business. I think they had a $3.5 billion valuation on their last round. He still lives in the same house he lived in. He still
Yep.
drives the same car. Like he just, you know, he didn't do any of that bro stuff. He's just there to do good work.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah. If I hit a billion, I'm gonna die of a cocaine overdose on a high rise. Like I just need you guys to know. Like it's gonna be in the news. And you're like, not custom. That would never happen to him. Like it 100%. Like I am very susceptible to that. At $1 billion, like that's my threshold. I wouldn't be able to survive. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I love Sean a lot though. Cool. What are
Well,
we not touching that we
may that
didn't?
never happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Fingers
Kids need
crossed.
you too much. Yeah.
What else do we have? How do we change people's lives? For people watching, what's something actionable they should do right now? I actually have one that came up earlier. Dylan shared that book yesterday. For those of you watching, Dylan shared a link in chat. And I have a really good habit of saving things in my second brain. If you've read Tiago Forte's book, The Second Brain, I'm really good at just grabbing shit and I just throw it in it. And I didn't do it yesterday and I pissed myself off because normally I do. And so I've done it now. But if you want something actionable that will allow you to attend to this AI space race, go build a second brain literally anywhere. It doesn't matter. Don't obsess over the tool. It can be Obsidian or Evernote, or I'm using this AI tool called Fabric. Honestly, Google Docs. And all it means is
Notebook.
Tiago's thesis is all information is potentially critical, just not right now. So put yourself in a position where you've captured the information and everything's searchable by key phrase. So you don't even have to really get good at like tagging or organizing the way that you used to. And then on a long enough timeline, you kind of end up becoming the person to go to for everything. And so go build a second brain is my action item. Anybody else want to double click on that or have another one?
Well,
I'll click on that all day.
I
Double
shared
click
that
on the
Chris
second brain.
Croner video too for you guys to download on that. If you scroll back up to YouTube, that was where they were like, if you had to build $1 million company in a short amount of time,
Oh yeah, I see
talking
it
about
here.
the ideas. Really good one.
Yeah. You know who else talks about that is the My First Million guys,
Yep.
Sean Putty and them.
Yep.
Yeah, they always make it sound a little bit easier than I think it is.
He was on that video. Chris Croner was,
Oh, he
and
was.
he basically his whole YouTube channel is about actually doing what everybody is like trying to do. How do I make these 10,000, 30,000, $50,000 months? So he'll talk about like the septic business, for example, or pinstriping on concrete, the doing the lines for parking lots and roofing jobs and just clearing land and all types of different business.
Mm.
Does whether kinetic or AI, right? How do you make the kind of money and get your own? And he plays a lot on Facebook Marketplace, but he actually puts his nose to the grindstone to try it out and prove it.
I like that a lot. Those are fun. There's a space for that too, I think in the, like the Mr. Beast world of YouTube authority. I think we talked about doing it with God, who was that? I'm pissed that I didn't say his name now, and if he ever finds out, he's gonna be so offended. I had a buddy in my mastermind, um, Gary. He was a film producer. He's made 40 like legit films, Academy Award shortlisted. He did a Johnny Depp film, and we talked about doing a TV show, kind of like restaurant turnaround, but small business turnaround, where you actually like you bring in crack entrepreneurs to go and fix the ops and the marketing. I think it'd be cool to do it the other way. Like document yourself. Like I'm gonna start a pool cleaning business, and I'm just gonna show people like how hard it is or how easy it is and how I acquire customers and all that fun stuff. Clinton, you had your hand up there for a second.
There we go. So I was about to, yeah. Um, I'm digging through one of my pet projects and I'm trying to nail the logic on one feature because that is like the obstacle to deployment and all that. Um, I just took all the documents that I assembled on the whole thing, threw it in Notebook LM and started asking it questions and having it distill everything. And I found gaps in my own logic by having it filter down and then just adjusting accordingly.
Wait, say it again. So you're trying to figure out how to execute on a feature. You threw, what did
Yeah.
you throw in a notebook?
So I took all the prompts and documents and everything that I could extract out of Google AI Studio,
Yeah.
created a document library, made a notebook out of it, and then had it distill the logic of each feature, and then asked about each feature.
Oh,
And then
that's
I
brilliant. So
asked,
you had it stress test. It's almost like a QA department.
That might be the most meta thing I've heard today.
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah. So I found gaps in my own logic or inconsistencies. And the biggest problem I'm having right now is that it's not following all my logic simultaneously.
Mm.
So yeah, that's the next obstacle, but getting there was like a huge win today.
My buddy Marcus Highcutter said something. I have a delegation mastermind, and Marcus is one of the smartest people in the whole wide world. He said something a few days ago. Um, I'm reading it. So his solution to context degrading, which I think that's what that is, what you just mentioned. He says, I'm injecting the essential instructions with every single time after I hit return. This way, the prime directives are always present. The core instructions are only 2K, so I'm doing a chat with 20 interactions. I'm burning 40,000 tokens, but his application remembers everything that he's supposed to and doesn't suffer from context degradation. I don't know if that's helpful or applicable, but he literally takes all of the rules engines and with every new prompt and every new update, he loads it in. And then maybe what he could do is play Dylan's game and get really smart about how he does that so that the repetition isn't as costly. Dylan, you got
So
your hand up?
sorry,
No, go ahead,
just for a
Clinton.
second. AI Studio has a feature where you can upload system instructions and give it guidelines. Like I tell it, build something that's um, independent of AI because I want everything I build to be non-AI dependent.
Hmm.
I want hard-coded equations and all that stuff. And um, you can do that without burning through all your tokens.
But didn't you say you're still running into the problem of it more or less forgetting the directive at a certain point? Like it gets to a point to where the instructions have been lost?
So that's a recent discovery, but yeah, and I'm wondering if that's a stability problem with AI Studio
Yeah, I've not played with AI
because
Studio.
Replit, I do things in AI Studio before I move it to Replit, just for proof of concept.
I just pulled it up now. This is my new plan to go play with this at least for an hour. Dylan?
I've been using projects more within both ChatGPT and Claude, and I've been working on a project. There's just a lot of context, and I had to keep giving it repeat instructions. And so I made a document of the context that I would update, um, but it would still not use it
Hmm.
most of the time. And in a fit of frustration, I asked it, "How do I get you to follow your instructions?" And that's exactly what it said. Take the most important ones and include them in every single prompt.
Wow. I wonder there's got to be a way to do that too. What I mean is like it's almost like nesting, right? It's like primary, secondary, tertiary.
Mm.
The same way that humans read in a thumb-friendly way with like, we basically read the way that Google Docs outlines documents. It's like title H1, H2, H3 paragraph. I wonder how AI, that's what I'd love to know. Like, how does AI integrate information like that? Is it really just to bottom? And so whatever's written first is given primacy?
It is different per model.
It is.
I wish I had the answers right now, but I know that between Claude and ChatGPT, there's a different ideal position for your main ask. Um, One of them, the stuff at the top is the most important, and as your prompt goes on, it becomes less important. Um, I think that's ChatGPT. And then I think on Claude, it's like the stuff at the beginning and the end is more important, but the middle is not. And that's a human trait that the stuff at the beginning and the end you remember a lot better than the stuff in the middle.
Hmm.
I think there's two different projects in both Claude and GPT. I think GPT is like folder organization and like topics, not necessarily training and learning and sticking straight to just the task and referencing all of it, right? Whereas Claude itself is a core project. You give it all of your data, your uploads, right? Because you can't necessarily upload your items into Claude like you can, I'm sorry, into GPT like you can Claude. You can upload a bunch of PDFs into Claude, and that's your reference base. Then you can upload copies of content and links in there to reference, and then your instructions. And I always make my instructions go step by step. And that was something you asked me on a couple. How do I communicate my work on my Claude project? You know, I make it go step by step. Prompt me first. You go through this order of items. After I've given you the okay, then you move on to the next order of items. Once I've given you the okay, the next order, and so on until I'm done and have approved each section of the order. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like when you're building an N8N workflow, right? You can go through, but I'm just telling it to do that inside my master instructions.
I just want to double click on something you said, I think thematically, which is the more patient you are with it, the better the outcome. And that's the second time I think we've touched on this, Brandon.
Mhm. Yep.
I just asked Claude, and I mean, who knows if it tells us the truth, but given that Claude is the one that I work with, I said, uh, poorly articulated, when I'm uploading content to Claude, what is the rules engine for prioritizing the information I give you? For example, is the information at the top treated with the most priority? Can you give me a first principles, best practices, rules engine for talking to you in a way that ensures what's most important is treated as such? And it gave me recency bias is real. So information toward the end of a long prompt tends to carry more influence on my immediate response. That's interesting. I think that's what Dylan was just saying. Explicit instructions override implicit context. That makes sense. And tell me the most important constraint is X. By the way, the rule of constraints is I think massively important with AI. Structure signals priority. I treat headers, bolded labels, and numbered lists as organizational cues. A buried sentence in paragraph 5 competes with everything around it. A clearly labeled section called critical constraint does not. That's interesting. Volume dilutes, of course. Contradiction resolution favors specificity. If two pieces of information conflict, the more specific one wins. And then, dude, look what it did. This blows my mind right now. I'm just so impressed. This visual it blows my mind. Here's a graphic rules engine. So I might just take this off and print it for as long as I think it's correct. But tier 1, output controls, format and length, hard constraints, tone and persona. Tier 2, task frame, the actual question, success criteria, role and audience, context and raw input, labeled sections, only relevant experts, explicit pointers, and optional enrichers. And then here are the 5 practical rules this map points to. Put output controls last, name the ask explicitly, label your sections, keep context clean, specificity beats volume. You know what's so funny is somebody on the call mentioned there's like an AI tool that helps you generate better prompts. It's like Prompter or something. You could just, what was it called?
Prompt Cowboy.
Prompt Cowboy. Yeah, thank you. You could almost take this rules engine and then just create a custom project with it. Take any prompt or any project that you're about to start working on and put it through this filter, and it would maybe do that for you. Elliot, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention as that the project we're actually building with the lab is all to do with this problem, right? I think I mentioned last week that LLMs, given their nature as statistical models, they don't really have any reference for truth.
Mm.
And that's really the fundamental problem. That what we've got here is all of the large companies are essentially brute forcing on brute forcing with the statistics. And so you always get the error rate. But what that does mean is there's going to be room for the infrastructure. I would give Amazon Bedrock as the best current example of this, even though it's not perfect. But it's essentially going to be the next stage of the guardrails for these LLMs, where they actually get given the technical ability to have reference for logic for the truth. And I mean, that's why we've been working on our logic engine, for instance, for the past couple of years, but that's where it's eventually going to be going. You had this old type of AI, which was symbolic AI, right? All this new stuff is neural networks, and the statistical model generation, but it doesn't really have any ability to self-reference a source of truth.
Mm.
And that's what we really need to take that next step, and that's what we're slowly seeing start to emerge in the ecosystems here. Again, I would say Amazon Bedrock is definitely the furthest ahead, but there's a lot of brute forcing on just pushing down the context window to try and avoid those errors. But
So I have a question, and this might go too far afield from a philosophical perspective, and I'm going to ramble for a little bit, but I'm going to hand you the mic back in just a second. Because I've thought a lot about this, the idea of an objective truth. And, an example that I'll offer is I have mercury poisoning. I have mercury in my brain and lead in my bones, mercury and lead. And the Western medical approach to mercury poisoning is DMSA chelation. And DMSA is horribly poisonous and it's bad for your kidney and your liver and it kills people. Either that or ALA, which was developed by a guy named Andy Cutler, who was a chemist who was mercury toxic, tried to develop a protocol, killed himself by overchelating, and it's still prescribed. But if you walk into a doctor's office today, it's DMSA or ALA, and that would be like the NIH PubMed approved stamp, like this is the way to get rid of mercury. Now there's a compound called NBMI developed by a doctor named Boyd Haley that binds to mercury, renders it inert, does so painlessly and without what would you call it? Side effects. They gave it to children. It cured children of autism. The FDA shut him down, of course, ruined his career, pulled his NIH funding. So truth from an AI-driven perspective would be DMSA or ALA, because AI is what is it? It's like an aggregation of all things that humans have decided from an averaged perspective is true, right? But Einstein had that funny comment when 100 scientists got together and published that thing against the theory of relativity, Einstein was like, well, if I was wrong, it would only have taken one. That's what's interesting is the truth tends to be on the fringe. It's on the outer ends of the bell curve. Uh, that's why I get so frustrated when people say things like settled science or trust the science. It's like, fuck you. The science has very strong motivations in the wrong direction. And the truth tends, like we're almost as humans, we're almost repelled by the truth more often than not. And so I don't know how AI ever could or would be able to achieve demonstrable objective truth for as long as we're training it on it's like a flawed premise. And then one thing to add to that, which let's just piss everybody off and see how quick I get canceled. Go talk to your AI tool of choice about the Federal Reserve and 9/11. Have you guys tried to do this? Dude, it's mind blowing. When you talk to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, talk to it about the Federal Reserve. Who owns the Fed? How the Fed functions? Why the Fed's there? Like it has been 100% blue pilled. And the thing that's funny about it is it's actually really condescending. I used it in front of my children, and I've talked to my ChatGPT, and it laughed. It goes, "Oh, the classic conspiracy theory," and I was like, "Wow! Like what a brilliant way to diminish anybody who might have been questioning or skeptical or just didn't know. Just got kind of wrapped on the nose by the AI tool. Talk to it about 9/11. Talk to it about Tower 7. Talk to it about the temperature at which steel burns or melts. Like it's just so you have an absolute inability for AI to really prove out what's true outside of what humans tell it it's true, and the humans telling it it's true. It's not a hierarchy. It's an average. Maybe it veers in the direction of hierarchy because I imagine, like from a medical perspective, it's going to prefer PubMed to just general articles. But within the confines of an established global hierarchy, it's going to veer towards the average, not towards the fringe, and the fringe is where the real truth is. A. B. AI is clearly very susceptible to blue pill, and we are a society run by special interests, and those special interests are dictating these terms. So part of me looks at this and I'm like, how do we ever get to truth? Like how, you know what I mean? And that's the impossible question I'd love for you to answer, Elliot. But if you're working on it, I'm sure you guys have thought about this too.
No, I mean that's exactly, why I will say, this has been our mutual friend Alan's personal project for many years,
Oh,
actually.
dude,
Like
this is what Alan's
how do
working
you,
on.
yes,
Wow.
this is what I've been heading up with him on that lab project. So, and this has been his pet peeve for, he loved AI and it only became economically viable quite a few years ago right now. So, th this is really his lifetime passion. So that's really what he's been working on personally, outside of the consultation for governments and financial organizations. But our solution really is that you have to have a combination of this. The company is called Neurosymbolic AI because you have to have the symbolic framework. An example I would give, if people are interested, because hardly everyone knows who Palantir is, they hardly know what they actually do. One of the big things that they're essentially a glorified IT company, I'll be honest. Like as spooky as everyone likes to
I
make
thought it
them
was all
seem.
just Big Brother bullshit. Like they're gonna
Pretty
police the
much, but they
world.
are essentially a glorified IT company. They send engineers in, but one of the big things they've found to do with AI, which is actually incredibly interesting, is they create what's called an ontology system for AIs within these giant organizations. And what that is essentially what you're talking about, a framework of the logic of the truth that the AIs within those organizations should follow, built out of playbooks, but also out of them running certain learning algorithms. And then the AI is hooked up to that ontology. And now, of course, these guys charge tens of millions to do that with their specialist on-site engineers, but that's where AI is going, is you have to pair the LLMs and the generation with restrictions around those frameworks. And the customization of those frameworks on the symbolic side of the AI will be the eventual way that we really have AI become autonomous
Mm,
with important things. I gave Amazon Bedrock as an example there. I believe one of their main partnerships was actually Robinhood, the app, the financial app. And obviously, with as soon as you get into people's money and AI, then it starts to become pretty scary. And so they're doing it. They're doing it slowly with low context help and starting and dynamic planning and things. So, but yeah, that's where it's going. And you're 100% right. That is the problem with statistical models. The average is actually wrong quite a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Amazon Bedrock was. I had to Google it while you were talking about it. That's really interesting. Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service that offers a choice of high-performing foundation models, what they're calling FMs, from AI providers via a single API alongside security, privacy, and cloud-native tools to build generative AI applications. So it feels like Amazon saying, hey, we'll assume the risk, but we put you in a box.
Yeah, but there's some really quite interesting things where you can build logic graphs and stuff that the AI has to check on its outputs. So that's really where it's going to go, as you have a framework of things that the AI is limited by. You know, of course, their problem is you have to use AWS if you're using it. You can't be self-hosted or something, but that's really the evolution where it's going on the
Mm.
architecture side of things.
The AWS piece is really interesting. Amazon, I don't, I would be surprised to find out that Bezos did this on purpose. I think he just lucked out. But I always say that Google is the only company with the knowledge graph to rebuild or to build AI from the ground up. But Amazon is an exception to that because AWS hosts something like 30% of the front-facing web. So if they actually now I've gone and read the terms of service, and if you use AWS, it's more or less yours, and they're not going to use your data. But I wonder when that changes, and if it does so quietly in a way that nobody knows, with really, really, really fine print. Because then Amazon really could give Google a run for its money, and that data might even be more powerful. Um, I guess we'll see. Dylan?
When I was doing the AI training, they way, way, way over-index on safety. And I
Hmm.
think it's more of a liability thing than anything, especially with the stuff coming up about AI psychosis and that um if you tell it you're suicidal long enough and keep telling or the one person bypassed all of the safety to eventually get instructions on how to kill himself. Um yeah, I think it's more of a liability thing than um blue pill or I don't know. I know of a creator on YouTube who did a lot of conspiracy things and now he has developed quite a schizophrenic following and they are messing with his life because he's not making the type of content they want to hear about anymore. Um so if
Well, you
you
got
were
to be
to
more
get
specific. Who is, so this is somebody who is creating
don't make
conspiratorial
me say his
content.
name. His name is Flesh Simulator. Uh
Wow, okay.
yeah,
Never heard of this one.
he has a video on Tower 7. He has he made a whole a 2 hour movie that includes the take that John Wayne Gacy was a fall guy for a much larger ring of serial killers.
Hmm.
Um, but he has started getting more less conspiracy and more political, and people aren't even though he has pretty moderate takes on things. Um, but yeah, I think it's to prevent people from because it's how people get into an extremist pipeline and an algorithm. That if you continually watch extremist videos on YouTube, it'll just give you more and more of them until that's all you see and you're inside of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
there,
think you just described all of humanity, right? Nobody wants to characterize their views as extreme. And I contend that every single one of us is in a polarized echo chamber to some degree, uh, because that's the way the algorithm works. I wrote an article years and years and years ago. It's one of the things I was most proud of professionally for a long time. And I called this out before anybody was talking about it. I think it's still on Search Engine Journal. Um, I'm gonna go find it. But that was the problem that I saw in Google is this weird need to not just give me the content that was correct, but to give me the content that I would resonate with emotionally. And we've weaponized that inside of, I mean, go, not that anybody will ever let you do this, but go look at somebody else's social feed. It's so shocking to me that other people's social feed doesn't tell them that an economic collapse is imminent. I'm like, how is this not what you pull up every single day and just watch and doom scroll? But then theirs is, it's something entirely different. It's like, oh, vaccines are killing your babies or whatever it might be. So I think, Dylan, to your point, I think you can't, there's no center of the content wheel. Like you have to be pushed to a fringe of interest. Um, and I don't know if there's a solution for that because that's what the algorithm would have to do.
There was also a project on there. So they don't tell you any what you're working on. Like all of the projects have code names, but sometimes the AI will tell you which one it is, like Gemini or Grok. There was a project which I now assume was Grok that had a retraining on safety because it specifically wanted to be less safe or less PC. And so there was a separate training on the safety for working on that particular model. It was called Tango. It was represented by the dancing woman emoji in the red dress.
I guess that makes sense. That's fitting. I'm dropping in this in chat, by the way. Not that anybody wants to read it, but this is what I wrote. This was 2013. My, how far we've come. All right, I've not caught up on chat at all. Clinton nailed it. Thank you. Google Anti-Gravity just changed their model after getting everyone comfortable.
Yeah, I have that on my list of things to talk about. If we want to bring it back to application, uh, they they had a really good free plan, and a lot of people started using anti-gravity, which is their version of Cursor. And they all got rug pulled pretty much. They changed the usage limits on both the free and $20 plan and introduced a $250 a month plan, which is
Whoa.
basically you have to use it. Um, there's a pay-as-you-go plan, and the person I watched a video about it, and the person said they know somebody who bought whatever 2,500 tokens, and they asked like, is this working to check and see if their tokens were loaded in, and it cost them 100 tokens to
Just to find out if their
ask
tokens were
if
loaded.
their tokens made it in, and that they pushed an update that included a bug that made people hit their usage limits very quickly, like their weekly usage limit within an hour. Um, there's a lot of yeah, but I think it's a lesson of the document that you shared that don't get too comfortable with any particular thing. Like
Yeah.
you have to be able to move from one thing to the next. And a lot of or like Cursor, you can just switch between models. On OpenClaw, you can use your own model. It's um I installed NemoClaw today, and it attempts to use your GPU by default.
What is Nemo Claw?
It's NVIDIA just released it. It's the
Oh, that's the one you told us
en
about yesterday.
enterprise version of OpenClaw.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That was going to be my opener today. I didn't have to use it.
Yeah, Brandon stole your opener. All right, so tell me
No, it's
about Nemo.
okay.
What are you doing with Nemo Claw? Are you impressed so far, or have you had any time with it?
It is an excellent tool for masochists. So basically, it takes OpenClaw and doesn't let it do anything. And then you have to allow it to do things a little bit at a time, but they rush to put it out. So they don't tell you how to do it. And OpenClaw doesn't know that it's running in NemoClaw. NemoClaw is a wrapper for it that puts it into a sandbox. It you, it can't access the internet by default. You have to tell it what sites it's allowed to visit or what endpoints it's allowed to hit, what methods it's allowed to use. You can specify port and all kind of stuff. I think it may end up being a tool that most people don't use, and
Mm.
that it's just for enterprise, and most people just use normal OpenClaw. As long as the security issues have been
You
repaired,
can
which I
use
haven't been following well along
you
with.
can use that, or you can use Copilot. Those are your options.
Your Copilot's Perplexity's thing, right?
Or Microsoft.
Oh, it's Microsoft. Doesn't Perplexity have one too? Perplexity has a
Computer.
Perplexity computer.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what
They
Austin Armstrong says he uses. But my buddy Sunit said he broke it in a day. He's like, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
they also released Claude Cowork for Windows. I got a notification today and downloaded it, but I haven't played with that yet.
Dude,
Oh yeah,
Cowork for me
that
has been amazing, but I haven't really branched out into the other things, to be honest with you, because they scare me. and I feel a little overwhelmed by them. You guys are giving me a lot of homework. Fellas, I appreciate y'all showing up every single day. Like I was kind of surprised to see the the consistency. This has been awesome. And how do
Dylan,
y'all
what
feel?
sources are you paying attention to? Like, do you have a RSS feed that you've kind of dialed in?
No, I had so I've got Vicente who works for me. He went and created a pseudo semi-agentic tool. I'll show you. I will show you behind the Iron Curtain. Um, and it imports content from
Oh,
everything,
cool.
and then it creates the thumbnail. Uh, so it actually chooses the leading headline based off of my rubric, shall we say. So here's the daily news, and then it explains like why something leads, suggested talking points, the hook, etc. So those are all the stories, and then my EA does this for me. She creates, so we have title, description, core messaging, topic ideas, and then every single day she creates the script. And I just go through and I decide what I want to talk about as it relates to each of these topics. And then every now and again, I'll find something myself. Like I really did, I found the fry station thing myself, and I sent it to her and I was like, make sure that's in the Daily Sigh, because I think that's really worth touching on. And some of it's more valuable than others. I started doing this just for me, like, because I really, how I say enter this is true. I felt so overwhelmed, and it occurred to me that we're almost like day traders now in the entrepreneurial space, and we really do need to be caught up. And so once we did all the work of capturing all this information and getting my daily summary, then I thought, man, it'll take me 15 minutes to just read this shit online. The issue with that was nobody was joining the lives because, and I talked to my girlfriend. She goes live every single day and she gets thousands of viewers. She does a great job. And she said, she's like, you're not live long enough for people to join. She's like, my first 15 minutes, she's just buying time for people to join the lives. And so then I was like, well, shit, if I'm going to do that, I don't want to just talk at names on a feed. You know what I mean? So then we fired up the Zoom and I was like, I'll invite people and see if anybody wants to come hang out, which, could have been a failed experiment, but so far has been tons of fun. And the thing maybe I look forward to most all day. So thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate you being part of this.
Absolutely.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. If you're watching it live, you can always come join the Zoom. Just go to dailysigh.ai. You can get the Daily Sigh delivered directly to the inbox, daily or weekly, also at dailysigh.ai. For those of you that joined, I see Tar Patel, Abir. What's up, Abir? Abir's in my mastermind. Why aren't you in the Zoom, dude? What are you doing? Keith, Dow, definitely saying your name wrong. So sorry. I love you anyway. Ashraf, Shy Lady. Hey, Shy Lady. Ali, Nick, Tim Vanderbilt. What's up, buddy? Sasquatch in the Mountains, amazing handle. Leon, Reef Coleman, Gaumis Landboy. I might being patrolled with that one. If I'm not saying your name, it's because I'm not getting in the feed. Thank y'all. And then for my council, which is what I've decided to call y'all today, we might come up with a better name. Grant, Clinton, Brandon, Elliot, Dylan, Kai. Appreciate y'all being here. Thanks for dropping so much wisdom. I hope I get to see y'all tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, for the Daily Sigh. This has been your Daily Sigh of Relief. Great big deep breath in. And realize you're all the way caught up. Congratulations.